Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Deji360. Now, within the next 2 weeks, Nigeria is expected to receive £4.2 million loot recovered from former Delta State Governor James Ibori. Now, Ibori, who served as governor from 1999 to 2007, received a 13-year jail sentence and spent 4 years behind bars in the UK after he was convicted by a court there in 2012 for fraud and money laundering. Now, the UK government and Nigeria have signed a deal to return £4.2 million of the loot to Nigeria, but there are already contending issues surrounding the disbursement of the funds ahead of its arrival. While the federal government says the money will be deployed for infrastructure projects, including the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, the Abuja to Kano Road, and the second Niger Bridge, stakeholders in Delta State, which include the government, traditional leaders, and elders in the state, say the money should return to the source from which it was stolen, which is Delta State, of course. So the question is, where should the money go to? Should it be spent the way the federal government has said it should be spent, or should it be sent back to the Delta State government? I'm now being joined on the program by Malaki Ogumado, who is a lawyer, and of course is also from, incidentally, he's from Delta State. Malaki, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Let me start by asking you, where should the loot go to? Because the federal government has said, look, it's going to, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, the Abuja-Kano Road, and then the second Niger Bridge.
Well, I think on that score, the federal government is deadly wrong. We have had cause to make that categorical statement at different fora. The point is simple. The consensus is already built, and that is that the money is stolen, the money found to be looted, not by Delta State government or the government of Federal Republic of Nigeria or the judiciary of Nigeria, but by a competent court of law outside this country, confirmed that the money stolen belonged to the people of Delta State. If you looked at your section 12 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you will find that no agreement, no treaty, no convention, no international instrument can take effect, in short, can become effectual, except it is ratified and domesticated by the National Assembly. That's section 12. So there are layers of, which is precisely why we, on this part of the divide, a bit concerned about the quality and content of legal advice given to the federal government of this country.
Okay, another question I want to ask you. How do you reconcile this with the fact that the Delta State government, at the time this case was on, actually came out to say no money was stolen, that even in the case of the $15 million, for instance, that the former EFCC chairman said he was bribed with by Ibori, the Delta State government came out to say that money didn't belong to it. As a matter of fact, the same Delta State government, in the heat of all of this, back then said no money was stolen from Delta State.
Mr. Deji, please let me even, bury these issues once and
for all. Okay, go ahead, please.
So the $15 million is quite different from this $4.2 million pounds that came in. In short, these £4.2 million that came in is with respect to James Ibori's family members and associates. The chunk of the money stolen and still at large, to the extent that we have not recovered that, was traceable to James in person. So we must draw the distinctions. If a Delta State government had a brainwave in the web of the conspiracy that we are talking about now, to deny what clearly belonged to the people of Delta State, I'm sure they cannot make the statement with respect to this tranche of this recovery. In any case, it is still the same Delta State government that was visiting the prison in London, where James Ibori was incarcerated for 13 years, even if he spent much lesser time than that. In short, even prior to the elections that brought in Mr. Okowa, we all knew that this man was calling the shot from. So for me, the starting point is not even what the questions you're asking me. As a Deltan, the starting point is that it is a shame, a big slap on my face, on the face of decent Deltans that were discussing years after this man had committed enormous perfidy, enormous corruption, over which he has been convicted. And I make bold to keep shouting that he is a convict, a common criminal. In short, the language of the prosecutor is that here was a man who knew nothing about governance, but stole himself into power and emptied the treasury of that state, leaving the people in penury. Those people include Malaki Ugumaro. I will shock you today to tell you that I go to my village, the almighty Delta State, oil-rich state. I go to my village in speedboat up to today. There are no roads, no dispensary home, no facility, no cottage hospital, nothing. That is one of the oil-producing, oil-bearing communities in Delta State. So I feel provoked. I feel offended that the Attorney General of the Federation could wake up for whatever reason and say that appropriations, and this is how it works, under Section 162 of the Constitution, it is that federating sub-nations, I'm talking of the states, are entitled to statutory allocations at the end of each month. These monies, to which Delta State was a beneficiary, was found their way into James Ibori's private coffers. That conviction and judgment was passed by a competent court of law and leading to this recovery. Once that is ascertained, no person should play game with where the money should go to. The only issue now is, do we take it back to the government of Delta State that is favorably disposed, without any contradiction, to returning that money to, if not adding more.
So what would be your position on that?
Our suggestion,
what would be your own position on
yes,
that?
Our suggestion, yes, my position, and that position has been canvassed at different fora, is that a trust fund should be created. If the federal government is interested, if the British government is interested in ensuring that the victims of these looted funds have access and benefit from the funds, they should monitor what happens to that trust fund. That trust fund shall comprise of men and women of integrity.
Not in the control of the state government.
Not in the control of the state government, but who are sufficiently, disposed to ensure that the victims of this loot, those who were deprived, who are those? People like us that don't have roads to our villages. People like my neighbors who don't have electricity, no hospital, no infrastructure, no amenities. Those are the people whose power, whose right is activated under Section 35 of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, to even take out action to be able to access that money.
Malaki Ugumaro, thank you very much for joining us on the program, and thank you very much for your contributions.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
We'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On Deji360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians are saying in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
Deji360, dissecting the issues.
Welcome back. Let's get another perspective now to this controversy surrounding the loot. That's the Ibori loot. Now, I'm being joined on the program by lawyer GT Ogunye, who joins us from another part of Lagos. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us on the program.
Thanks.
Cut a long story short, where should the loot go to? Where should the money be returned to?
The money should be returned to Delta State from where it came. That's the logical destination of the money if we're talking about a just and equitable restitution. In the final analysis, the question that ought to be posed is, what will be the justice of these return funds? What will be the justice of the case? And since we all agreed that the money initially was stolen from the public till in Delta State, the money should be returned there. As Christians usually say from heaven we come and to there we shall return. From Delta State the money was stolen, and for me, to Delta State should the money return.
Let me quickly ask you this. Don't you have concerns that with the kind of political influence that James Ibori wields in Delta State, even at the moment, that returning the money to the state government would be like returning the loot back to him?
I have such concern, but I do not have a very serious worry about that. Because I know that we have institutions in this country, and our institution must be allowed to work. We have the anti-corruption agencies who should be alive to their responsibility, who should be aware if the money is being reluted again, that this money is being reluted, and they can follow the money. Are we to say that public trust in the ability of the Delta State government to behave responsibly has so much been broken that we can't just imagine that he can spend the money in a contrite and repentant manner if the money is returned to it. If this trust is so broken, why should we even trust Delta State government with appropriation, with even managing any public resource in that state? I understand that argument, but I think that the fear of that possibility should not be the reason why the money should be spent.
Then what do you?
I've always had this concern.
The reason I asked you that question is some people have also suggested a second way that, okay, instead of the federal government to spend the money the way it says it is going to spend it, what about, say, for instance, you set up a trust, for instance, where you have maybe a group of people, like a trust now, to actually monitor and rather than give the money directly to the state government now, keep it in a trust and you set up a group of people now to manage the trust. They identify certain projects that should be executed in that state and then go on to execute.
That can be done, but that should be done by the state government. My argument is not just moral, but also legal, and it's about substantial justice. Look, even before now, when the Abacha loot issue came up, and the federal government said that it was going to spend the money exclusive of the other governments in Nigeria, my view on that occasion is that the money didn't belong to the federal government of Nigeria. The money belonged to Nigeria. Historically, Abacha didn't steal federal government money. He stole Nigeria's money. He was taking this money from the central bank before the money was appropriated. He was taking the dollars, the cash from the city. There are reports to this effect. Ismail Agwaso, the national security officer then, will write a note to Anthony Ani and then Paul Oguma, the CBN governor of that era. And then that would just open the vault and the money was being taken. So when the money was being returned and the federal government had that money, my argument on that occasion is that no, you can't do that. Return the money to the Consolidated Revenue Fund. Let the money be shared by tiers of government, and let everybody then determine how it's going to spend its money. But on that occasion, it was felt that the federal government, would be the wisest tier of government, the most prudent tier of government to spend that money. Now, your guess is as good as mine, whether that money has been properly spent. Look, to start with, the money was taken from Nigeria in breach of Nigerian laws. In breach of Nigerian laws. And the fact that it was taken to Britain to be warehoused there doesn't mean that Britain is now in a stronger position to determine how the money is going to be spent. When the money was taken from Nigeria, offenses have been committed in Nigeria. It's beside the point that the Nigerian state didn't have the capacity, or because of one reason or the other, to punish the culprit and then get the money back, right? Now the money is now being recovered from a foreign land, and they are now sending the money back with conditions on how it should be spent, which impinge on Nigerian sovereignty. Nigeria has a constitution. Every money that is received under the constitution, shall be appropriated, which is another thing. That here you are talking about the condition that predetermines how money should be spent, and so the federal government is now insisting that because the conditions are sacrosanct, this is how we are going to spend the money in an extra budgetary fashion, which is a violation of law. Nigeria has done its own bit before. Look, in this country, the Brazilian bank case, fraud case, involving Nwude, Union Bank, and some other people in this country, presided over by Justice Oyewole, then of the High Court, was about $247 million. After that judgment, the money was returned to that Brazilian bank by Nigeria. So what these people are doing now, what Britain, US, whatever, what they are doing, they're not doing something that is so extraordinary.
All right.
How will it sound that haven't discovered in their proceedings that this money was stolen from Nigeria? They will now forfeit the money to themselves. Meaning that they recognize that the money was stolen from Nigeria, so they forfeit it to themselves. The money is not
restolen and brought back to their country.
No, if they forfeit it to themselves, that would then mean that the money is stolen by them. I would recognize that the money was stolen from Nigeria. If they forfeit the money to themselves, in pretense that they were honoring their own law that allows them to forfeit such money, illicit money, in their own jurisdiction, it will mean, to me, that they recognize that the money was stolen from Nigeria, but they also want to steal the money in the second instance. And that will not be justice. That's the point I'm making. Ultimately, the money must return to the country from where the money has been taken from. And in this case, the people from whom this money has been taken are the ordinary people of Delta State. The fear that the money could find its way back into Ibori's hand and all that, for me, is neither here nor there.
But these are genuine fears, and these are genuine concerns.
Money can be
these
monitored.
These are genuine fears and genuine concerns that cannot just be dismissed anyway.
That may just be an excuse or pretext for the federal government to retain the money. And who told you that if the money is with the federal government, the money cannot be stolen in this country?
All right. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us on the program, and thank you for your time.
It's my pleasure.
Take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the president of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On Deji360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
Deji360, dissecting the issues.